Rahu in the 12th house. Rahu is the dark side in astrology that no one really talks about. I guess that is why it has something to do with eclipses or shadow side of the moon, whatever those people say. All that nonsense about the North Node being your destiny point, I go against that. Rahu in reality is the thing that we run away from. Rahu represents things that are weird, unusual, unconventional, rebellious, all in a really bad way. The way that I will talk about Rahu in the 12th house, you will agree with the way that I describe it. Rahu is about foreign or exotic things that we aren't accustomed to seeing, particularly the things that are different when compared to the culture of the country or USA state we are born in, or the culture we are often around presently. Whereas the 12th house is about drugs like smoking and alcohol. The 12th house is about sex slash masturbation, our sleep cycles, foreign settlement, prohibited places like Area 51, being alone, and this house represents many other things. Before I begin, an excellent example of Rahu in the 12th house would be Jeffrey Dahmer's birth chart, because I remember in his sidereal chart he had Rahu in the 12th house. First things first, I'll start off talking about sex. So the 12th house can describe how frequently you have sex and your experiences during the act. Not just sex, but masturbation as well. You gotta think Rahu represents things that are unusual, but in a very bad way. I can't exactly predict the outcomes of Rahu because it deals with a person's destiny differently than everybody else. In Vedic astrology, destiny would be known as your karma. Here are possible outcomes of how Rahu can affect your sex life so you do things unconventionally. If the average person does only 4 sex positions, you would take things up a notch. You may just do 12 positions, or instead of doing sex positions like doggy style, you would do sex positions upside down or something. Shoots. Even where you have sex can be in the most craziest places. Some people have sex at home, in cars, at hotels. You may just have sex inside of a restaurant bathroom, like those 2 people did in Baltimore. Your sexual experiences throughout life can be done unprotected, like without using condoms, not even getting STD tested, which is considered bad for obvious reasons. Another example is you may often do anal sex, orgies, BDSM, threesomes, those double penetration positions. Rahu holds no boundaries, so I won't know how extreme it can be for you. It is all about what's destined to happen for you, not anybody else. Then, when it comes down to masturbation, you can do that unusually, but I won't know exactly. Women use dildos, a woman with this, or even a guy may be the type that uses machines. I'm not going to explain the machine stuff because I don't use them. Rahu can definitely affect how frequently you have sex or masturbate. I won't know exactly. It might be being celibate or a virgin for a long time. Most likely, though, it's someone who do these things on a daily basis because Rahu shows what we get more of without even trying. Overall, your sexual experiences can be bad oftentimes. You may not think that way until you tell someone one of your sad stories. A good example is if you listen to the Notorious B.I.G. song called Nasty Boy. He would be likely to have Rahu in the 12th house based on what was said in that song. Now, let me talk about sleep cycles. How often you sleep. Is it easy for you to fall asleep? Do you have insomnia? These are the types of sleep cycles represented by the 12 house. What Rahu does is it makes you have those sleep cycles that most people in society won't have. Your sleep cycles are different than anybody else with Rahu in the 12th house. For reasons I won't exactly know, although I know a few possible scenarios. This is a guarantee for people with Rahu in the 12th house because even when Rahu had transited my 12th house, I couldn't even sleep. What happens is you suffer from insomnia, so it is hard for you to go or even stay asleep. Think about when a woman just had a baby, she rarely sleeps. Shoot, Rahu doesn't even make you want to go asleep. Instead, you just stay up late. Similar to how you see someone that plays video games all night. A real night owl person has Rahu in the 12th house. If you have a child with Rahu in the 12th house, I would take note because your child would not go to bed early for school. Someone like Vince McMahon may have Rahu in the 12th house. There are tons of stories about him rarely ever sleeping long. A big issue regarding sleep can be something preventing you from sleeping properly. Some people refer to the 12th house as the subconscious mind. I don't know, but Pisces and the 12th house has to do with dreams and imaginations. From my own experience, you would often have bad dreams, those nightmares, and it can happen often. Again, a young child with displacement, you can notice how they may not like sleeping alone. This is why astrology, especially if you come to someone like me that really knows my stuff, I can easily diagnose these issues, especially for children. I can even know when it happens too. It may not be nightmares that keeps you awake, but some sort of external factor can affect you too. Again, use the newborn baby situation as an example. The newborn baby keeps the parents awake. I should talk about the spending money issue. Rahu in the 12th house definitely causes spending addiction. It's not even intentional. This is where the illusion side of Rahu comes out. You will spend money for something and then would realize it wasn't even necessary. For example, I remember I bought a 32-inch Fire TV. I didn't like how small it was, and if I watched any sort of video, the screen would turn dark at the bottom. Yeah, the entire screen. It was almost like a filter. The, the screen would turn dark for some reason, and I would see green lines at the bottom of the screen. My assumption was maybe it messed up during shipping. You know, those Amazon workers sometimes may not care, or maybe it was a faulty TV. Despite that, I still saw the potential that a Fire TV has. Pay attention to the illusion Rahu causes. You would notice it because Rahu gives us epiphanies. My original intention was to get a 4K inch TV, but I thought to ship it over to the Bahamas would have costed me too much from the shipping company. It was my first time ever shipping anything on my own, so I didn't want to take the risk. Turns out I was wrong. I would have been able to get the 43-inch 4K Fire TV. Next thing you know, about 2 months later, this shipping company named Aeropost came out of nowhere. Surprisingly, they accepted PayPal. I had tons of money on PayPal. It was a new company, so they were advertising like crazy a month before Christmas. So I ended up purchasing a 58-inch Fire TV. Moral of this long ass story is I spent money for something that was unnecessary. Rahu in the 12th house makes a person spend money on something, and then shortly after they would realize it wasn't needed. Let's say Rahu in the 12th house is in Taurus slash Rohini. So what could happen is a person spending money on designer clothes. They would realize a while later they already had that Dior shirt they just ordered. Maybe someone would purchase clothes online and be like, damn, they gave me a size way too small. Overall, Rahu in the 12th house creates a spending addiction. The 12th house deals with drugs and alcohol, so a person with Rahu there is very prone to taking drugs and alcohol. The types of drugs would be the most uncommonly used drugs, which makes a person use the extreme type of drugs that people have limited access to. I'm not a drug user, but I assume it's those psychedelic slash hypnotic drugs like LSD, mushrooms, etc. I know for sure Rahu in the 12th house increases someone's chances of being a weed smoker drastically, especially in this day and age. Basically, using drugs that are illegal in the country or USA state you were born in. Rahu shows what we get more of without even trying, so this can enhance someone's chances of having a drug addiction. It might be those pill types of drugs too that helps allow someone to fall asleep. Percocets, Molly, Lean, Robitussin, they all come to my mind. I don't know exactly. Rahu gives everyone a different result. Some people say that the 12th house relates to spirituality. I don't focus on spirituality when it comes to astrology. There are some placements that I am aware of. So let's say the 12th house does deal with spirituality. Most likely it does because Pisces originally ruled this house, and Pisces has a lot to do with delusions. Basically, things that aren't physical or we can't blatantly see. What Rahu does is it would make a person have the most uncommon spiritual beliefs that are bad. Charles Manson comes to my mind. You know, those instances where a person start those like cult following. In that cult following, they would do the most extreme things. I had seen many involving suicide, but this isn't a fear mongering episode. Maybe Rahu in the 12th house can make someone be a hippie. Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, you aren't gonna think nothing is wrong with it. Whereas others, even people you know, would think your spiritual beliefs are just out of this world. Not just with spirituality, but the other things I mentioned in this video. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the unusual body parts that Rahu can make look weird. I don't know exactly how, but a person can have unusual feet or toenails, maybe both. Unusual, not in a good way. Something like athlete's foot comes to my mind. Since we know the 12 house represents feet, the 12 house represents your paternal aunts and uncles, so your father's brothers and sisters. Here's the catch: I wouldn't trust those people if I were you. See, Rahu shows who snakes us, cheats us, lies to us, lies on our name. These are the these are things that I had uncovered through my own research, hence why what I'm saying about Rahu sounds so unorthodox, but it connects if you really have displacement. This means paternal aunts and uncles won't have your best interests. You'd be like, damn, what kind of uncles are these? Why do they treat me like that? Well, it's because they are the human embodiment of Rahu. So, if you really want to understand Rahu, observe how those people treat you. They aren't gonna do things in your favor, I would say most of the time. Anyways, follow me on the other apps. There will be more videos to come.